Hi, in this video I will talk about the Joseph Surah again. And Joseph Surah is a well-known surah and telling about the life of the Prophet Joseph. And let's start from the verse 30. You do not worship beside him except innovations that you have made up, you and your parents. God has never authorized such idols. All ruling belongs to it's important, all ruling belongs to God, and He has ruled that you shall not worship except Him. And also we see that in this surah there's a criticism of slavery. They buy Joseph like he's some sort of a product, and they they cause him trouble. And he's telling the result of his interpretation of the dream. O my present mates, one of you will be the wine butler for his lord, while the other will be crucified. The bird will eat from his head. This settles the matter about which you have inquired. He then said to the one to be saved, Remember me at your Lord. Thus did the devil cause him to forget his Lord, and consequently he remained in prison a few more years. So because they say like the interpretation is that this is not his Lord, so he's forgetting it. So then the devil, that's why I think the thus is mentioned here, but I think there are different interpretations of this instance. And in another surah we remember that forgetfulness is related to related to devil and but I think not a forgetfulness but prioritization. So he prioritized other things than this, and it causing it big problems, big troubles. The king said, I saw 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 skinny cows, and 7 green spikes, and others shriveled. O my elders, advise me regarding my dream, if you know how to interpret the dreams. They say nonsense dreams. When it comes to interpretation of the dreams, we are not knowledgeable. The one who was saved said, now that the final remembered. So here it's interesting. It's about prioritization, and we can see that. So when Moses forgot the fish wasn't they forgot the fish, and they should think of their eating as one of the important points, important things. But here his prioritization is interestingly satisfying his king, not satisfying God. So if it is satisfying God and his friend is important, he will remember. But I think there is a likelihood that this is not about Joseph problem. So maybe this sentence is just saying unclearly, like it's my interpretation by the way. I think there's no one interpreting that way. So I think in this interpretation, they say that Joseph did something wrong. But Joseph is saying, remember me at your Lord means maybe not when you go there. It's like just remember me. Just thinking about God or something like that. And then he's forgetting it because his Lord is something else. His Lord is not it's not something important for him. And he said, what do you cultivate during the next 7 years? So this is the interpretation of the dream. Joseph, my friend, inform us about 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 skinny cows, and 7 green spikes and others shriveled. I wish I go back with some of information for the people. He said, what you cultivate during the next 7 years, when the time of harvest comes, leave the grains in their spikes, except for what you eat. After that 7 years of drought will come, which will consume most of what you stored for them. After that a year will come that brings relief for the people. and they will once again press Jews. The king said, "Bring him to me." When the messengers came to him, he said, "Go back to your lord, and ask him to investigate the woman who cut their hands. My lord is fully aware of their schemes." So he is giving him actually proper answer. The king said, "What do you know about the incident when she tried to seduce Joseph?" They said, "God forbid, we didn't know anything evil committed by him." The wife of the governor said, "Now the truth has prevailed. I'm the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one. I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence, for God doesn't bless the schemes of the betrayers. I do not claim innocence for myself. The self is an advocate of vice, except for those who attained mercy from my Lord. My Lord is forgiver, most merciful." The king said, "Bring him to me, so I can hire him to work for me." So, and another thing that actually, after his loyalty, then the king wants to recruit him. The king thinks that he doesn't even do this, he can control himself, and his prioritization is good, and so then king think that he's a recruitable person. Today you have a permanent position with us, and and this is another thing is prioritization is also satisfying God. If Joseph has relationship, let's assume he has a relationship with that woman, and he cannot be in this prominent position, and he cannot see his knowledge will be important one day. So he will be no one. He will keep being a slave, and maybe one day he got caught, and he will still go to prison. So that's also one of the possibilities. He said, "Make me the treasurer, for I'm experienced in this area and knowledgeable." So, and also I said the previous video, maybe he's studying something during that staying in that house, at that house. We just established, I don't know about it, I'm just making up this. We just established that Joseph on earth ruling as he wished. We shower our mercy upon whomever we will, and we will never fail to recompense the righteous. Additionally, the reward in the hereafter is even better for those who believe and lead the righteous life. Joseph's brothers came and they entered. He recognized them while they didn't recognize him. After he provided them with provisions, he said, "Next time bring with you half, brother. Do you not see that I give full measure and treat you generously? If you fail to bring him to me, you will get no share from me. You will not even come close." They said, "We will negotiate with this father about him. We will should do this." So it's interesting thing. So his position is also being miraculously related to their meeting with his brothers. He then instructed to his assistant, so he has assistants, he's really manager or something, put their boots back in their bags. When they find them upon their return to their family, they may come back soon. When they returned to their father, they said, "Oh, father, we can no longer get any provisions unless you send our brothers with us. We will take good care of him." He says, "Shall I trust with you him, as I trusted with you with his brother before that? God is the best protector, and of all the merciful ones, he is the most merciful." When they opened their bags, they found their goods returned to them. They said, "Our father, what more we can ask for? Here are our goods returned to us. We can thus provide our family, protect our brother, and receive one more camel load. This is certainly a profitable deal." He said, "I will not send him with you unless you give me a solemn pledge before God that you will bring him back, unless you are utterly overwhelmed." When they gave him their solemn pledge, he said, "God is witnessing everything we say." And he said, "O my sons, do not enter from one door." So he's after being satisfied that they will not do something bad, enter through separate doors. However, I cannot save you from anything determined by God. To God belongs all judgments. I trust in him, and in him shall all the trusters put their trust. This is more like a diversification strategy to reduce the risks. When they entered in accordance with their father's instructions. So, although this couldn't change anything decreed by God, Jacob had a private reason for asking them to do this, for he possessed certain knowledge that we taught him, but most people do not know. So this is important. So still, God is appreciating that they are trying to do something. So God knows the result, actually. It was already determined. When they entered Joseph's place, he brought his brother closer to him and said, "I'm your brother. Do not be saddened by their actions." When he provided them with their provisions, he placed the drinking cup in his brother's bag. Then an announcer announced, "The owners of this caravan are thieves." They said as they came towards them, "What did you lose?" They said, "We lost the king's cup. Anyone who turns it will receive an extra camel load. I personally guarantee this." They said, "By God, you know full well that we didn't come here to commit evil, nor are our thieves." They said, "What's the punishment for the thief if you are liars?" They said, "The punishment, if it is found in his bag, is that the thieves belongs to you. We thus punish the guilty." He then started by inspecting their containers before getting to his brother's container, and he extracted out of this brother's container. We thus perfected the scheme for Joseph. He couldn't have kept his brother if he applied the king's law. But that was the will of God. We exalt whomever we choose to higher ranks. Above every knowledgeable one, there is one who is even more knowledgeable. So here, so God knew that. So that's why God's scheme is better, bigger. And so this imprisonment make him king. Actually, overall, his stress was reduced, right? His stress was reduced. And another thing is that, so this is knowledge. Also, it is appreciated knowledge. They said if he stole, so did a brother of it. So, and we also, there is another thing is, so there is a reference to another law. So in the Prophet Muhammad's time, I think there's no such law like you can hold people like this. So, and Prophet Muhammad somehow knows these laws, and this story consists of something else with different law and different way of speaking. It's perfect. They said if he stole, so did the brother of his did in the past. Joseph concealed his feelings in himself and didn't give them any clue. He said, "You are really bad. God is fully aware of your accusations." They said, "Oh, you noble one, he has a father who is elderly. Would you take one of us in his place? We see that you are a kind man." He said, "Yeah, God forbid that we should take other than one we found our goods. Otherwise we will be unjust." When they despaired of changing his mind, they conferred together. Their eldest said, "Do you realize that your father has taken a solemn pledge from you before God? In the past you lost Joseph. I'm not leaving this place until my father gives me permission or until God judges me. He is the best judge. Go back to your father and tell him, 'Our father, your son has committed a theft. We know for sure because this is what we have witnessed. This is an unexpected.'" So this is another interesting story. So that they don't want to, this time, they regret, they repent. And they're older in this story, and maybe they're better when they got old, and they don't want to leave their little brother this time. And another thing is they don't care their dad that much. It's like just you can have the, and it is interesting. Joseph is teenager. They're teenager too, and teenagers' parents' jealousy is over after this point, and this time they don't care if they really care their little brother, and they don't want to be a bad person, and their morality is increased. They're not as impulsive as before, and it is consistent and very beautiful. Our father, your son has committed a death. We know for sure because this is what we have witnessed. Was unexpected. He said, indeed, you have conspired to carry out a certain scheme. And another thing is, he doesn't know about it. They didn't make any scheme or something, but they did it before. That there's still scheme. Quiet patience is my only recourse. May God bring them all back to me. This is important, and he knows about the future too. Then it may mean that, including Joseph too. And he aware or not aware, God knows. He's the omniscient, most wise. And so there is always mom more knowledgeable, and Joseph is probably at that time more knowledgeable than his dad. He turned away from them, saying, I'm grieving over Joseph. His eyes turned white from grieving so much. And he's saying this, may God bring them all back to me. And talking about Joseph. They said, by God, you will keep on grieving over Joseph until you become ill or until you die. He said, I simply complain to God about my dilemma and grief, for I know from God what you do not know. O my son, go fetch Joseph and his brother, and never despair of God's grace. None despairs of God's grace except the disbelieving people. When they entered quarters, they said, O you noble one, we have suffered a lot of hardship along with your family, and we have brought inferior goods, but we hope that you will give us full measure and be charitable to us. God rewards the charitable. So they're referring to God. He said, do you recall what you did, Joseph and his brother, when you were ignorant? They said, you must be Joseph. He said, I'm Joseph. So this is another interesting thing. In the previous of this surah, there is a saying that you will remember, you will tell them in the future, and it's telling. It shows that the story is perfect and perfectly previously referring, and it is in a chronological order like movies today. And this is because if one lives a righteous life and steadfastly perseveres, and he perseveres actually, God never fails to reward the righteous, so the reward is later. He went to the prison, but now he is a leader. They said, by God, God has truly preferred you over us. We were definitely wrong. He said, there is no blame upon you today. May God forgive you of all of the merciful ones. He's the most merciful. And there is still referring to forgiveness in this verse that previously say when they left Joseph in there, they said the same in the future. I hope God forgives us later. Take this shirt of mine. When you throw it on my father's face, his vision will be restored. Bring your whole family and come back to me. Even before the caravan arrived, their father said, I can sense the smell of Joseph. Will someone enlighten me? So he is feeling it. And as he felt before, they said, by God, you're still in your old confusion. When the bearer of good news arrived, he threw the shirt on his face, whereupon his vision was restored. He said, did I not tell you that I knew from God what you didn't know?